Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's lesson, we're going to be multiplying using models and the associative property, the same as our previous lesson. The only difference is I'm adding another strategy in for lesson 36 today. So again, we're going to be using the tape diagram strategy, the associative property strategy, and repeated addition. You guys remember my scenario that I gave you guys, or analogy I gave you? Instead of numbers, I used cars. 4 times 2 cars. And we learned in our previous video that 4 times 2 cars really just means 4 copies of 2 cars. And we kept making copies of 2 cars until we had 4 copies. 1, 2, 3, 4. So altogether we found out we had 8 cars. Today we're going to continue with this same idea, only we're adding in repeated addition. So I want us to focus on 5 times 5 sixths. And we're going to start with our tape diagram strategy. Well, 5 times 5 sixths is the same thing as saying 5 copies of 5 sixths. So we're going to do the same thing we did with our cars. We're going to keep making copies of 5 sixths. And as always, when we're using our tape diagrams, it's very important that we decompose our parts to represent 5 sixths. So 1 sixth, 1 sixth, 1 sixth, 1 sixth, 1 sixth. I have 5 sixths. How many copies of 5 sixths do I have? You're right, I only have 1 copy. How many more copies do I need to draw? That's right, I need to draw 4 more copies to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 copies. There goes 2 copies. There goes 3. And there goes 5. So now you guys, I have 5 copies of 5 sixths. My denominators in sixths, so I'm going to keep my sixths the same. And now I'm just going to focus on adding up all of my numerators. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 5. Plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 10. Plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. 15, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, 20, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, 25. So I have 25 sixths, and we already know I'm not done. I have to decompose my improper fraction to make it a mixed number. How many wholes can I pull out of 25 sixths? Awesome job, I can pull out 4 wholes, or 24 sixths, because 6 times 4 equals 24. How many sixths do I then have left over? That's right, I have 1 sixth left over. So I can rename 24 sixths as 4 wholes and 1 sixth. So 25 sixths equals 4 wholes and 1 sixth. 5 times 5 sixths equals 4 wholes and 1 sixth. Now you guys, let's use the associative property. 5 times 5 sixths. So remember, in the associative property, I have to write my multiplication sentence in unit form. So 5 times 5 sixths. Remember, unit form means numbers and words. 5 times 5/6. So I can multiply 5 times 5 or 5 times 6. It makes more sense for me to multiply 5 times 5. So I'm going to multiply 5 times 5. But I still have 6. You guys will notice that 6 from our previous video lets me know that I have a fraction. It actually lets me know that my whole is going to be out of 6. So I'm simply just going to put 6 as my denominator because 6 represents my whole. And now we're going to multiply as normal. 5 times 5 equals 25. And then just bring down my 6. 25/6, we already know from our work from our previous slide, equals 4 1/6. Now, let's use repeated addition. Remember, guys, the goal for introducing so many strategies is to find the strategy that you like best. So let's use repeated addition on the same problem. I still have 5 times 5/6, and we know that 5 times 5/6 simply just means 5 copies of 5/6. So if I have 5 copies of something, all I'm doing is just duplicating it 5 times. So that means I have 5/6 5 times, plus 5/6 plus 5/6 plus 5/6 plus 5/6. That's it, you guys. 5 copies of 5/6. It's 5/6 added 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we already know our denominator stays the same, and we're adding our numerator. 5 plus 5 is 10. 10 plus 5 is 15. 15 plus 5 is 20. 20 plus 5 is 25. 25/6 is the same thing as saying 4 1/6. You guys, we just multiplied 5 times 5/6 3 different ways. Let's do the same thing for one more problem. In this problem, I have 4 times 3/5, or 4 copies of 3/5. Let's start with our tape diagram. Remember, I'm making copies of 3/5, so that means I have to decompose this tape diagram into 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 to make a total of 3/5. How many copies do I have on my screen? Yeah, you're right. I only have 1 copy. How many more copies do I need to draw in order to match the equation 4 times 3/5? That's right, I have to draw 3 more copies of 3/5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 copies. Let's go ahead and fill in our copies. All right, you guys, I filled in my copies. Now it's time for me to bring over my denominator, which is 5. Can you beat me? How many fifths do I have all together in 4 copies of 3/5? That's right, I have 12 fifths. And I know I have to decompose 12 fifths in order to make it a whole number. Can you beat me? What's going on the left? What's going on the right? That's right, 10 fifths and 2 fifths. So what's 12 fifths as a mixed number? Awesome job. 2 wholes and 2 fifths. So 4 times 3 fifths, or 4 copies of 3 fifths, equals 12 fifths, which equals 2 and 2 fifths. Let's use the associative property to solve the associative property to solve the same problem. 4 times 3 fifths. Remember, with the associative property, we can multiply any of our numbers together any way we want to. It's also very important for the associative property that we write our multiplication sentence as in unit form. So 4 times 3 fifths. What 2 numbers do you think makes the most sense for us to multiply together? I agree. 4 times 3 makes the most sense. However, I still have fifths. Do you remember where I put the 5 in this equation? Awesome job. It goes underneath 4 times 3 because fifths represents my whole. And now we just solve. 4 times 3 equals 12. And then my denominator is 5. 12 fifths, which we know equals 2 and 2 fifths. Now let's use repeated addition. Same problem, 4 times 3 fifths. Or, let me go ahead and write repeated addition. Or 4 copies of 3 fifths. So if I'm making 4 copies of 3 fifths, what would my addition sentence look like? You read my mind. 3 fifths plus 3 fifths plus 3 fifths plus 3 fifths. I now have 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of 3 fifths. What do I do with these? That's right, I'm adding them together. Three plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. 12. And I have 12 fifths, which we know from all of our different strategies equals 2 and 2 fifths. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you guys learned a new strategy in this video. Go ahead and comment down below which strategy is your fave. I'll see you in the next video.